Alright guys, welcome back. This is Shadow Drake. So now we're going to go over how to set up an advanced furnace and actually make our first batch of super alloys for all 5 kinds. So now the caveat, before you go and completely disassemble your furnace, I want to make a note that you have got to have it empty. Because if you just disassemble it while it still has gases in it, you may suffer some rapid kinetic injuries, but you know. So yeah, definitely use a venting system to make sure it is absolutely empty before you deconstruct it. Otherwise, you know, gases fly out everything, fire start, you break your suit, and with my solar panels being right there, that is a very real possibility. So now, as far as piping goes, I'm just going to remove some of this piping here to have some space. You may not need all of this, but you'll be able to recycle some of the piping, not all of it. Like, for example, I can probably get rid of this one-way valve. I don't have much space, so let me just move stuff there. So what I like to do with this thing, and because it is much bigger, I kind of like to have it a little bit further back. So let's have, well, let's put it right here. And so the thing with an advanced furnace, it has the pumps. You need a few more tools like electronic parts and some steel sheets to finish building it up. And it is powered, so you can get power out of it. The furnace only has a data connection so that you can read from it. But the fact that this furnace has power is because it has some pumps. And those pumps make it much easier to empty or fill up the furnace with gases. Now I am on the moon, so I don't have the ability to get fresh environmental gases to pressurize the furnace. You know, this makes some recipes significantly easier to perform. So I will be relying on ISIS, but on planet like Mars, Europa, Vulcan, and Venus, you can very easily just have an active vent and pipe it to the input so that you can actually just, you know, fill up the furnace with pressure for something like solder, you know, cool things down rapidly. Typically, I would recommend just tying the output pipe directly like so that it can just straight vent out to the atmosphere. I'll probably redo this piping system for collecting gases, but you need to have an input pipe and an output pipe. And that is because these pumps can only work when those pipes are attached. So now with that, I am able to vent out any gases easily from the furnace. So like, for example, if I were just to take, you know, let's just take a nitrize. Melt it in the furnace. I need to rearrange my stuff better. You see, I have some nitrogen, some nitrous in there. But you know, if I didn't want that in there, I don't have to flip open a valve. I just turn on the pumps for the output, and it's just going to allow it to go out. Now, if I pipe the tank to the input or something, I could use the input pipe to do the same thing. So this gives you better control for smelting all of your alloys in a furnace. And that's what we're going to get, and that's what we're going to do. So let's talk about the super alloys and where they may be used. Now, when you look at ingots, you have super alloys. So super alloys can only be made in an advanced furnace. You may think that you can make them in a regular furnace, you know, you get really good at it, but that's not the point of the advanced furnace. It really is just a check to make sure that these recipes are able to be unlocked. So unfortunately, even when you click on them, you see they can only be made in an advanced furnace. Even if you mimic these conditions in a regular furnace, yeah, they still won't be able to be made. So upgrade to an advanced furnace for sure. So let's go over them. Of these super alloys, Stellite is going to be the hardest to make. So when we look at Stellite, you see that all superalloys have essentially 3 ingredients, so 0.25, 0.5, and 0.25. How I read this is you need 1, 1, 2. So 1 stack of silver, 1 stack of cobalt, 1 stack of silicon. That works. And just keep in mind the stack is 50. And so that's how I will have, let me just open that backpack. So that's how I have the backpack. So silver, cobalt, and silicon. So you see here's my stack of silver, here's my stack of cobalt, here's my stack of silicon. That's basically my Stellite making ingredients. Now here's the thing with Stellite. Super, super hot. Ooh, 1.8 kilokelvin. Very, very hot. Fairly low pressure, 10 megapascals to 20 megapascals. This is the toughest one to make for people, but I'll show you how to get this done pretty easily. So Stellite will be the hardest one to make. After that, Astroloy will be the next one that needs a specific heat and temperature and pressure, but it's pretty high up there. And you can see Astroloy needs 1 copper, 1 cobalt, 2 steel. Now, for this steel, it has to be the ingot steel. You cannot have some iron and coal ready to make all the steel. No, it has to be the ingot. And that's why you see in my backpack I have 2 reagent mixes. This is a pre-done reagent mix of steel. So I'll have to cook the steel first before I then use it, combine it with the cobalt and the copper. And then I just need a fairly high temperature. If you made Stellite, you're going to already be at the temperature, so you can probably just bum rush and get your steel out. It's pretty simple. Again, 30 to 40 megapascals. Chances are you're going to hit that very easily. The next one is Inconel. Now, Inconel, you see, it's okay with any temperature, but you have to have a very specific. This very specific pressure is kind of what makes it tough to make, but it's not too hard to deal with. Again, 2 gold, 1 steel, 1 nickel. As you see, 2 gold, 1 nickel, 1 steel. There, that's the ingredients. Hastelloy. This one is the one that is almost has very little uses, but as you see, it's kind of like Inconel, except it's in a much tighter temperature range with a more relaxed pressure. And it uses 2 silver, 1 nickel, 1 cobalt. And I will talk about this one and the next one to some degree because these are rough. And the final one is Waspaloy. Now this is the one that's kind of like solder, needs fairly low temps, but stupid high pressure. This is the one that might make you concerned that you're going to blow yourself up because of all this pressure. In anywhere with atmosphere, this pressure isn't hard to get because you just suck in ambient atmosphere to get this. On the moon, though, you're going to be relying on gases or any other stored gases that you have. So this can be dicey, but it requires 1 silver, 1 nickel, and 2 lead. So now let me go over why this one and Hastelloy are hard. The reason Hastelloy and Waspaloy are tough to make is not what their requirements for temperature and pressure are. It's that they require so much silver and cobalt or lead that, if you recall, mined ores have off gases. Silver has nitrous oxide. When this is mixed with volatiles, it's a very hot, a very heavy burn. So the tough part about Hastelloy is that you already have putting a ton of silver in there that can burn very, very hot, and you need a very tight range. Additionally, Waspaloy needs silver and lead. Lead also has nitrous oxide. So I'm just going to give you caution that when you're making these two, you either need to off-gas these ores and then use that nitrous to make something else and then wait for it all to be done, or you're just going to have to be venting the furnace, and that may or may not work in your plants. So we're gonna go through and cook all of them. We're going to start with Stellite. And then what I am going to do is off-gas my stuff for Hastelloy and Waspaloy. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to put those ingredients in and spit out the reagent balls and put them right back to where they are. So my Hastelloy will go in one section. Then I'll do the same thing for Waspaloy. Put them in a separate section so I don't mix them, because it's very easy to mix them. And then I'll resume, see where I am before I decide to go for Astroloy or Inconel next. And while I'm doing that, I'll have to make sure that I pre-smelt the steel for those. So let's get started. Now, remember that I said you do need to off-gas. So from your furnace, let's just go on ahead and put one volatile, start it, one oxide, start it. So this is going to get very hot, and you know what? By off-gassing, we need to get the silicon off-gas. Silicon will make a lot of gases that will cool this furnace down pretty bad. As you can see, it's already cooled down pretty bad. This is the toughest part of Stellite. That silicon really murders the ability for this to, get up to heat. So now that we have a bunch of junk gases, we dump the furnace. I don't care. We dump the furnace. We are going to use the inherent properties that we get nitrous from silver, and cobalt actually gives you volatiles. So we're going to use both of those gases in there to get our furnace stupid hot for the Stellite. And you know what? While that's venting, let me just make a little bit more space in my inventory. I don't need these pipes and stuff. I'm going to be holding on to stuff. And yes, from the previous one to this one, I did fix everything. None of my plants died, which is why everything's damaged. Alright, so let's look back at this. So we vented just about everything. That's fine. So now, we got our silicon in there. Now we need to get the cobalt and the silver in there. But now, it's not quite there yet. We need to go on ahead and pre-burn this again to get it hot. So, 2 more volatiles. 1 more oxide. And now we add our silver. So the silver is off-gassing. And now our cobalt. The cobalt will off-gas into volatiles. And you're going to see the temperature spike. You see the temperature has spiked. We're already there. We're already at 2 kilokelvins of heat. It's perfect. We got our Stellite. Boom. That's the hardest one. You get the Stellite, congratulations. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on ahead and off-gas the Waspaloy stuff. Go on ahead and mix it all together, because that's going to get nitrous and gases in there for my Astroloy and Inconel. Going to get all that stuff in there. Mix everything together. And then I'm going to get all my reagent balls out. So that's all mixed. We're going to put this in the bottom. We're going to do the same thing for Hastelloy stuff. We're going to off-gas all the Hastelloy ingredients. Oh, pulling the lever back. And you're noticing that's a lot of nitrous in there. So as soon as I introduce any sort of volatiles in there, that's going to burn. It's going to burn hot. And it's going to be scary looking. So we're going to have to be extremely careful about adding volatiles in here. Which there's 50 cobalt. It's going to add volatiles and it's going to get hot. Remember, 60 megapascals is the I go boom. So let's get my Hastelloy stuff, and it's going to be right here. Now, I'm close to being able to make Inconel, so let's make Inconel. So let's get my steel out first. You see, that's a perfect ratio for steel. So we're going to get my steel out. We're going to go ahead and slap it back in. Then we're going to add the nickel and the gold. Now, the gold off-gasses some oxygen, so if there's any volatiles left in there, it's going to warm it back up a little bit. Alright. Let's see. What do I need for Inconel? I'm missing something. So, 23.5 to 24. I am at a little bit over. So, let's just vent a little bit out until that button turns green. There it goes. It's green. I got my Inconel. Perfect. Now let's get the stuff for steel. My steel for the Astroloy. I'm still under pressure, but this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. So I got my steel. Now remember, I can use steel to cool down the furnace a bit. So, because I'm a little bit over temp. Let's look at Hastelloy. I'm still over temp, but I need some pressure. But keep in mind, I have ISIS. I can work with ISIS. So let's just add some nitrice to this mix to get pressure. And at the same time, lower the temperature. And that's going to be kind of difficult. I'm kind of scared about this, but... If I add a single thing of volatiles, this temperature is going to shoot way up. I know that for a fact. Let's see what oxide does. All right, you know what? I may have to add a volatiles. One volatile. Let's see what that takes us to. Definitely watch this thing because it's always scary. I think at this point I might need to just go for... I might still be able to get the Hastelloy out. So let's just add big chunks. Big chunks of ice. Need a little bit more. One more. Perfect. Let's get my Hastelloy back in there. See, it's green buttons, so I'm already making the Hastelloy. I'm not concerned about the temperatures for the Astroloy because cobalt has some volatiles in it, and that's gonna give me the heat. So now that I got the Hastelloy, let's go for Astroloy. There we go. And I'm sure you're wondering, I'm adding 200 grams worth of ingredients, yet I'm only getting 50 grams of the superalloys. The devs made the superalloys to give less, because overall they are very expensive things to make, but also they're meant to be more mineral intensive. Alright, so you see I have the pressure and temperatures for Astroloy. So let's get that out. And now comes the Waspaloy. Now the Waspaloy is going to be tricky because I need it to be cold. And I also need high pressure. So really, honestly, the only thing I can do is let's just go ahead and load this furnace up with the Waspaloy ingredients. And then we're just going to dump a ton of ice in there. Like, I'm just going to dump whatever spare oxides and nitrices I have to get it both the pressure and cold. So, yeah. This is why in atmospheric world, if you have an input pipe with an active vent and then just input it to the furnace, you can just suck in the relatively cold gases from the atmosphere and get there pretty quickly. So, let's just add my 35 oxide, see what that does. That is nowhere near enough, I'm not gonna lie. My 9 nitrices. It's okay, I got more. Where am I at? 39.4? Yeah, that's still not enough, so 49 nitrices. This is very ice intensive, I'm not gonna lie, and this is why I would recommend having a lot of nitrice, because I still don't have enough pressure. 50 oxides. Trust me, it's scary, but we're already down at the temp. Not quite at the pressure. I think I need... Alright, we're there! We got our Waspaloy. Yeah, there you go, guys. All 5 of our super alloys made, and if this was in a pressurized environment, you will be hearing this thing groaning and groaning, and that's around the time point where you kind of freak out and wonder if something's going to happen. So if I cycle back inside... Nope, I cannot hear it at all. But that's why when some of the ice melted out there, you heard it groaning. And that starts growing somewhere around 45 megapascals, I believe. Like if I melt some of the oxide here, you'll hear it. Yeah. You start hearing that pretty soon, pretty early, and it's scary. But trust me, you can make it. You can make all 5 of your super alloys in a single batch. The problem with that is making all of those, finding all of that. So, uh, I'm leaving this here only because I can extract a ton of nitrogen and carbon dioxide for my plants. But all I can say is if I put any sort of volatiles in there, it's gonna explode. But yeah, I'll leave that for later. And so that kind of covers the advanced furnace. Personally, at this point, you should be capable of building a tank system for storing the gases from it. I would heavily recommend that output goes to some kind of place to get those gases, especially for the vacuum worlds like the moon and Mimas, because you're going to need that gas somewhere. As you can tell, I'm still refilling from the the canister bomb of fun, time, and happiness. So I forgot to talk about. So let's talk about what these super alloys are good for. So the first thing I will say is that you want these super alloys for the sensor lenses. Let's see, steel, silicon, and Inconel. So let's get my Inconel, my steel, my silicon. Let's go ahead and print one of those out so that I can show you what I'm talking about. Now, these advanced recipes are cream of the crop. Inconel is used for the sensor lenses, it's used for some high-end rocketry, I believe, and it's also used for large station batteries. So instead of having that small one, I can replace it with a big one, which is great. Hastelloy is kind of the most useless. It makes night vision glasses, which I personally do not like them at all. But it's also made for Larry's for basically automatic harvesting, something you can code to automatically harvest your plants. But beyond that, you can sell it for a lot of money with traders, and that's about it, to be honest. So let's get the ore processing. That's Electrum and Waspaloy. So Waspaloy is used predominantly to make hard suits, like if I remember right. Or maybe I'm thinking Astroloy. No, okay, yeah, I was thinking Astroloy. Waspaloy is used for making the hard suit jetpack. Oh, come on, where is it? Yep, the hard suit jetpack. And beyond that is sensor lens stuff or high-end, really high-end rocket engines, usually the pressure-fed liquid engine. Let's just make the T-Rex scanners. Come on. T-Ray scanner. I need some iron. I really want to show this off because this is absolutely something useful. Spoilers. It's very useful spoilers. And it definitely makes the game much simpler for you. Like I said, Waspaloy, rocketry, hardsuit jetpacks. Astroloy is used in a lot of different things. In particular, your hardsuit jetpacks, and for those who are in atmospheric worlds, it allows you to make the heavy solar panel variants, the tracking kind, which need Astroloy. So, yeah, you're going to spend a lot of Astroloy for Mars, Europa, Vulcan, and Venus if you're going to be relying on solar a lot. And Stellite, also kind of used in a lot of different things like the large batteries and hard suits, but Stellite does unlock the heavy filters, and the benefits between the light, medium, and the heavy filters for your suit is medium filters last roughly 4 hours, small filters last roughly 2 hours, heavy filters last for a long time. I want to say about a lot closer to 16 hours possibly. I might have that numbers incorrect, but they last a long time. You make some heavy filters, you're probably not likely to change them out for a long time. So yeah, so super alloys are all extremely useful. you can make them fairly, with some work. And but the biggest part for them is those super alloys unlock the sensor lenses, and depending on what chip you put on them, let's just get the celestial one as well. Oh, I don't have any iron. What am I talking about? It's right here. The sensor lenses are super useful because you have 3 different chips. The T-ray scanner, the ore scanner, and the celestial scanner is just kind of like a vanity one. So let's do that one first. Now, when you turn them on, your hood changes and you're basically seeing through the lenses. With the celestial scanner, I now see, hey, look, there's Earth, there's the Sun, look how far away it is. It's Mercury, Venus, Neptune, Mars, Saturn, and Pluto. Up, and your Uranus is under the base. Interesting. And there's Jupiter too. It's just a nice, nifty little thing, and it's like, okay, cool. So what about the other things? Now, T-ray scanner. That's the next one. Allows you to see piping and cabling. So if you hit a lot of this stuff behind walls, you're going to be able to see through them. It doesn't do a great job at letting you see what's broken, but it is helpful in the case for when you put stuff behind walls and you're like, oh, how do I wire this up? In this case, now see, okay, there's my cable here. I could bring a cable out or something like that. Or there's my piping, whatever. That's the T-ray scanner. It's useful for when you're building up and routing a bunch of wires and pipes and chutes. Finally, the last one is the ore scanner. Now, this thing is one of the things that I would heavily recommend you to shoot for as early as possible, only because when you turn it on, you see the location of all the ores that you can hand mine. This upgrade is absolutely critical for those points where you're looking for something, you can't seem to find it, and then as soon as you put this thing on, you see that, oh, it's all around me. Yeah. 10 out of 10 will recommend that. So yeah. That covers the advanced furnace, making your batches of super alloy in a single run. Honestly, with the super alloys, I recommend saving Waspaloy for last when you're finally done smelting. Like solder, because once your furnace gets cold, you can't really use it anywhere. But those super alloys unlock higher tiered recipes that can, again, it just makes your life easier. For example, the sensor lenses with the ore processing lenses means I no longer have to worry about how far I have to go to find a specific ore that I need because I need to build something. It really simplifies your mining time. The advanced furnace has pumps where it can manually pump things out or pump in gases that you have stored in that you're piped to it. So it's much easier to smelt or get things situated. Again, it still explodes when it's overpressurized at 60 megapascals, so just be extremely careful about that. Again, the recipes are exact, and I recommend using a mining backpack or hard mining backpack to kind of arrange the ingredients in order so that you can make them very easily without mixing stuff up. Alright, so this kind of covers most of the getting started. I will have one final intermission where I just go over some stuff that I may have missed that you'll probably run into much earlier. And then that will be it for getting started. From here, the world will be your oyster at this point. Hope to see you then. Thank you and have a good day. Bye-bye.